Welcome to Effective Social Media Marketing for Beginners. I am Allie Lane. I'm a business advisor with the Maine Small Business Development Center at CEI. I typically work in our Bangor office, but we are a statewide organization offering no-cost confidential business advising to folks who are both starting businesses and running their small businesses in Maine. Before I joined the SBDC about 5 years ago, I owned a little cafe and bakery. And I want to just give you a little bit of an anecdote about how I handled social media and what's kind of driven me to take interest in it now and resonate with you all as you try to navigate it in your businesses. I was just finishing up business school. I was like 24, so I thought I was pretty tech savvy. I was pretty familiar with your basic social media, and I was starting my business, and it was a cafe and bakery. So I knew it was important that I be on social media. So I thought I was pretty good at it, right? And I get going in business and totally put it on the back burner. Felt like it wasn't doing anything for me, felt like I didn't have the time for it, wasn't quite sure if I was doing it right. I ended up every day I would post a picture of my specials board and a couple grainy photos of baked goods in my showcase. And it was very boring. It was the same thing over and over again. It wasn't super professional. It wasn't creative. It was the bare minimum. And I was just posting to Facebook. I wasn't exploring any other channels or anything. So anyway, like I said, I thought I kind of knew what I was doing, but it turned out that social media is not something that even if you know it, you can just jump right in and roll with it because you've got a million other things that you're doing in your business. So while social media wasn't the only thing that I did wrong in my business, it was definitely a missed opportunity to achieve some more stable demand and be a little bit more connected to my customers. So my hope today is to talk to you a little bit about this, some strategy for how you in your busy day-to-day life can use social media more effectively, how you can feel more informed so that you know what you're doing is effective and you're not just wasting your time. And I'm also hoping at the end we'll have some time for questions. So that said, just a little bit of housekeeping. I kind of jumped right into the topic because I'm excited about it. But I'm going to ask everybody just please stay off mute through the presentation. We've got a decent sized group, so I think I'll probably need you all to be muted the whole time. But please feel free to put questions in the chat as we go, as they come up. I believe we'll have some time at the end to tackle them. I also think it's really fun. Sometimes people will put questions in the chat in a webinar and other people on the call, other than me, will answer those questions in the chat. So feel free to have little side conversations in the chat. I'm not offended if you're talking amongst yourselves. Just keep it in the chat as opposed to verbally, please. But yeah, whatever comes up, whether it's something you came into this webinar wanting to know, or something that I trigger with any of my slides, please feel free to put it in the chat and I'll get to it at the end. If not, we can certainly connect either one-on-one advising or I can answer in an email. We can definitely follow up. So jumping back in a little bit to, so I sold my business, I joined the SBDC, I started advising folks like you all. And now my job is to try to teach social media as part of our advising in a way that is palatable for everyone to understand and actually execute in their business. I've got 11 colleagues around the state who are also business advisors doing the same work that I am. So if you request advising on our website, which the link will be at the end and in the follow-up email, you'll be connected to the nearest advisor to you. All are no cost and confidential, and all can talk to you about social media. So what's the plan for today? Well, I always like to start with the why. I feel like, yes, you're on this webinar because you understand that social media is important or something you should know about, but I find that it's better for sort of retention and actually using this information that you learn if we talk about why it's important just for a moment. We're going to go over some general rules of thumb, some best practices, if you will, for using social media in your business. We're going to go through 8 of the sort of primary social media channels that you're going to come across. We're going to talk about who's on them, how to best use the channel for what it's worth, and what is sort of the hot topic of the social media channels. You know, what are people doing when they're on those channels? So we'll go through individually. And you will get these slides at the end too. So there's some of these slides have quite a bit of content. You might be trying to scurry to take notes, but you will get these slides. So if you don't want to scurry and take notes, you don't have to. After we talk about the channels, we're going to talk about what to put on those channels. You know, what's some ideas for content, because you don't want to do what I did when I was in business, where I got in the rut of doing the same exact thing, boring thing day after day, because that's not good for the social media algorithms when they are showing your content to your people and the public. And it's also not good for you because it gets very stale and boring. Got a slide of some random miscellaneous things like hashtags and, you know, tracking metrics and stuff that I couldn't really fit anywhere else. So I figured at the end, we'll just kind of hammer that stuff out. And like I said, I'm hoping we're going to have some time for questions at the end, maybe a little bit of discussion. So starting with the why. I get the question a lot, you know, do I need a website? How do I make sure that I'm a credible business online? Social media is one way to either supplement or serve as your presence on the internet. Nowadays, and you may disagree with this, I think a year ago I probably would have hesitated, but nowadays, if a business has zero presence online, I feel like it does damage to its credibility. And I would almost say that universally across just about all industries, especially all business to consumer industries where it's a business selling directly to consumers. But even business to business industries, I still pretty much believe that 99% of businesses need something on the internet in order to be deemed credible. Social media is a great way to do that. It's free or inexpensive. It can be easy. It also can be difficult. We'll get into that. You don't need a website, a domain. You don't necessarily need to hire someone. So social media is a good way to establish presence and credibility online. So when somebody Googles your business name, something comes up. May not be a website, but it may be a Facebook page or an Instagram or a Google business profile. Why else? SEO stands for search engine optimization. This is basically how relevant you are to Google, where you appear on a Google search when somebody types in either your business name or your area or your industry or something that you'd like to be the answer to on Google. You know, if I'm driving through town on vacation, I search restaurants near me, and businesses that have good SEO will be the first ones that pop up and likely the ones that I go to. So SEO is about being found earlier on Google, because nobody actually goes to the second page of Google. Social media is another mechanism to be more relevant to Google and improve your SEO. Social media also has something that a lot of websites don't have, and that is the ability to interact with your customers fairly easily. You know, comments, likes, and shares. Interaction is great for previously discussed SEO, but it's also just great in general for establishing that loyal customer base, for learning about your clients, doing some market research to understand their wants and needs, and humanizing your business when that's important. You know, letting customers know that your business has people behind it and that your customer service is good and you speak to them and answer them. So a lot of good reasons to be on social media, but also a lot of hurdles for sure. So that's what we're going to talk about today. And honestly, if there's one big reason to be on social media, it's because your customer is. Your customer is using social media, so you should be there too. So talking about some best practices, just in general, you know, you're thinking about starting up a social media strategy, or you're starting a new business and trying to figure out how social media fits into your marketing strategy. I always start in any marketing conversation, whether it's a brand new business or a business that's been around for 20 years, but that comes to me and says, I need help with marketing, or I need more customers knocking at my door. I always start with, know your customer. Who are you trying to talk to? Who are the most loyal? The customers that spend the most money with you? Who are those people and what do we know about them? So I always start there. And we're not going to go too deep into target markets and identifying those people today because we're here to talk about social media. But I do the same thing on social media as you got to know who you're talking to. That is the bare bones step one. And sometimes my conversations don't make it past that step because drilling down into figuring out who those people are is challenging. Another good rule of thumb, if you can't do it well, and I mean social media, don't do it. I should put an asterisk with that because I don't mean, I know a lot of people are really hard on themselves and they think I'm not real good at social media, but I know I need to try it. What I mean is channels, specific channels. You know, don't try to be on 6 different social media channels if you can only post once a year on 4 of them. Don't overexert yourself to be in too many different places. Really try to do 1 or 2 channels really well. Forget about the rest. And we'll talk about how to identify which channels shortly. As far as posting goes, be consistent but varied. Sort of the 2 magic words as it comes to social media is consistency, but also variation. In my business, I got the first part of that and I missed the variation part. And I mean, I think the consistency is probably more important than the variation. So I'll give myself a little credit there. And part of my issue was that I wasn't real with my time management. I didn't plan. I thought I had it figured out and then I would just post to social media. You know, I'd get home from my shop every day after spending all day there and sit down at the computer and do that. It just never worked that way. So figuring out in your calendar. Oh, there's somebody. Sorry, I'm getting some feedback. I'm just going to mute. Oh, there we go. Perfect. I realized I don't have the ability to mute people, but Jen does. So anyway, be real with your time. So this also comes back to which channels are you going to commit to being good at? And if you overcommit, then, you know, how are you going to have time to deal with all of those different channels? I've had some people do really well setting a schedule. You know, every Sunday night they sit down and they don't just post to social media on Sunday night, but most channels now allow you to schedule posting. So they can go through and schedule posts for a whole month, you know, in just a couple hours on a Sunday night. So be real with yourself and what you're actually going to stick to. Something that I hear a lot lately too, related to best practice number 5, people feel like it's a hamster wheel with social media. You know, maybe you've been on Facebook for a couple of years and you've got a little bit of a following, but it's growing slowly. And maybe you've got a decent following, but it's not turning into revenue for you. So you start to think, I'm doing something wrong. And then that consistency from best practice number 3 starts to suffer. So that's where this comes in. Be patient. And I don't mean what you think I mean. I don't mean just wait a couple of months and you'll start to see that work pay off. No, I mean wait a couple of years. It's always going to take longer to kick in than you think. So if you start consistently posting on social media, when you start to think that it's not working for you, I mean, we can stop and reevaluate, make sure you're doing the right thing. But if you do everything you learn in this webinar and you've been doing it for a while and you're like starting to get frustrated with it, go another year and then reevaluate. So it takes an amazingly long time, both with social media, but also with search engine optimization. Think about how busy the internet is. Think about how long it takes for you to rise to the top of the internet, be it a social media channel or Google. It takes a long time. So be patient. One major key to social media use, using it well, is interaction. Respond to your clients' comments, encourage them to share and like. Whatever opportunity you have to interact with people, do it. You don't just make a post and then forget about it. No, you got to interact. Any social media channel you use, keep in mind that, well, 99% of people are using social media on a mobile device. Doesn't mean that they're only using it on a mobile device, but I did find a statistic that about 78% of people only access social media from their mobile phone. So just think about whatever you post. If you're on a desktop computer while you're putting together the post, pick up your cell phone and check it out. Make sure that it has the same, je ne sais quoi when you look at it on a smaller screen as it does on your desktop. And we are not going to get into pay to play today, but many, if not all, social media channels often have the opportunity to pay for ads, just like Google Ads. I kind of consider that to be the next step after everything that we're talking about today. So if you've implemented the things that we talk about today, and you've got your basic social media foundation and determined that social media is a really good place for your business, your industry, your customers to flourish, we can talk about pay to play, but we simply don't have time. And frankly, I'm not super well versed in pay to play. So you can post comments in the chat and we can try to get into it, but I'm definitely not an expert in that. So I can help you find someone that is maybe, but I'll be honest. So let's get into the channels. I mentioned earlier, but I'll repeat it again because it's important. Choose maybe one or two, if you're just getting started, one or two that you can reasonably manage in the time that you have. Post consistently, interact, keep variety in mind. So general rules of thumb for all channels. We've got 8 channels we're going to look at. We're going to kind of break down the details of. There are more channels. There are things that I'm not even talking about in here because they're very niche. Doesn't mean that if you find some other option, it's not a good fit for you. It's just I try to talk to sort of the masses in these webinars. So first, sort of the matriarch of all social media, you got your Facebook. The average age of your user on Facebook is just over 40 years old. On Facebook, it's recommended both for the Facebook algorithm and for what the platform knows to be true about the way people interact with Facebook to post 3 to 5 times a week. That is the consistency you'd want to be doing on Facebook to maximize the usage if you determine Facebook to be a good fit channel for you. Instagram, sort of the little sister of Facebook, which also is wonderful if you're using both together. They are both owned by Meta, so you're able to post to one and have it post the same exact content to the other channel. That cross-pollination there is a wonderful time-saving hack. So if you're not already doing that, I'm happy to talk and explain how to do that, but look into it, connecting your channels and making it so that you just post to one and it goes to the other. There are some limitations. It's not perfectly flawless, but it is a great start. Instagram is a little bit of a younger audience than Facebook. Over 90% of the users are actually under 35 years old. Similar in that it's recommended that you post about 3 to 5 times a week. Then you've got X, or Twitter, as it was formerly known. Slightly more male audience than female, although I don't consider that statistic, that percentage, to be super, it's only 60% to 40%. It's not like 95% male. Age group wise, the largest represented age group on X is 25 to 34 years old. So another young audience, similar to Instagram. And with Twitter, it's recommended that you post 2 to 3 times a day. So Twitter is one that, again, if your industry, if it's a good fit because all of your clients are on Twitter, and we'll talk about how to use Twitter in a minute, just be prepared that it is a more of a commitment than Facebook and Instagram. TikTok, bit of a new player to the game. Even younger of an audience than X and Instagram, with 41% of users between 16 and 24 years old. Similar posting frequency, recommended about 3 to 5 times a week. People tend to use TikTok for more fun. So worth considering when you're thinking about your content. And TikTok's a newer one. I don't have a whole lot of clients that are using it for business and using it effectively. People kind of talk about trying it, and it is a bit of a commitment when you think that it's pretty much all, it is all video. So that is a different animal than just posting words or photos. But I did have one client once that was really successful on TikTok. They were selling a product and they had a huge following. And so I said, okay, you know what? I try to learn from my clients because I don't know everything. And I asked this person, who also happened to be like 22 years old, so younger than me. And I decided to, pick their brain. And I said, how did you how do you do so well on TikTok? How did you grow your following? You know, what is it that you're posting? How often are you posting? What are you doing? And the only thing that they could tell me was the second time they ever posted, they got lucky and went viral. And ever since then, I've hesitated to recommend TikTok because I don't like to recommend something if I don't know how to tell you how to use it appropriately. And what kind of advice if I tell someone just cross your fingers and hope that you go viral? You know, that's difficult. So TikTok is a tricky one. But it's growing. It's not totally useless. It's worth a conversation. And I will say too, at the end of this webinar, there is a slide that talks about other content that the SBDC and other organizations put out. We have more in-depth webinars on almost all of these channels. So like I can specifically think of a TikTok webinar that I attended that was really interesting. So if you're interested in learning about certain specific channels, I might be able to help direct you to some content that digs deeper. This is very much of a broad overview, you know, social media for beginners here. So anyway, let's talk about LinkedIn. LinkedIn's a little different. Good for business to business, good for if building a referral network is a huge part of your marketing. If your own personal credibility, maybe you're a service-based business where you're an artist or a therapist or some sort of medical professional, that being credible is really important. LinkedIn's good for that. The age is a little bit older on LinkedIn. It tends to be your workforce generation, which I guess you could think of anyone, you know, 30 to maybe 55 years old is kind of the bulk of that. People on LinkedIn tend to have greater disposable household income than some of the other channels. And it's recommended LinkedIn's a little bit easier, maybe 1 to 2 times a week. I do find that people most often sort of start with Facebook and Instagram. And then they say, well, you know what, I am a service professional and I do want to build some referral networks. And I do need to establish credibility. So then they pop themselves on LinkedIn, but it becomes surprisingly difficult to manage all of those platforms. I know it doesn't sound like a lot. You think, yeah, I'll go post to Facebook and then I'll go swap it out a little bit, make it a little bit more appealing to the LinkedIn audience and post there too. But like I said, be real with your time. Start with one and build on that once you get really comfortable and really good at your scheduling. YouTube. YouTube is the world's second largest search engine behind Google. So just an interesting the way people are using these platforms. They're using YouTube to search. There's a link right here. When you get the slides, you'll be able to click that link and it takes you to a pretty in-depth webinar about marketing on YouTube that is updated annually. So the 2024 version is linked here. If you're using YouTube, it's recommended that you post 1 to 2 videos a week. Another one of those sort of time consuming, it's like TikTok, you know, you're not just throwing a photo up or posting a paragraph, it's a video. So it can be a little more hefty. You've got Pinterest, one that I hear about actually less and less. It's a lower maintenance platform, but it also has a much smaller audience than I think all of the other platforms we've talked about so far. Definitely way smaller than your Facebook and your Instagram. So it's easier. You don't have to post as often. Your posts can be more evergreen, so they can last longer. You're going to post something and be able to ignore it for a while. Pinterest is not as big with interaction, so you don't feel like you're in there, you know, commenting and sharing and liking and following. So it's easier, but you get what you pay for. When I say pay, I mean your time. So you're not going to spend as much time on Pinterest, but your return may not be what it would be on some of the other channels either. We'll talk in a minute about sort of industry specific and use, but if your product is or service is particularly a good fit for Pinterest, may be worth considering. And then there's Google Business Profile. That's when you search your business name on Google, a box that pops up either above the search results if you're on a mobile device or to the right of the search results if you're on a desktop. It's a quick glance. It shows you know, your name, your address, your phone number. People can leave a review. Sometimes there's photos, links. It's a quick glance. It's fairly easy to set up. If you don't have a physical location, if you're servicing a territory, if you're based out of your home and you don't want the address public, you can still have a Google Business Profile. It's just a little bit more cumbersome to set up. So I say easy, but it's really easy if you have a physical location, a brick and mortar shop. and it's slightly less easy if you don't, but still worth investigating because it's free. Really helps with Google search engine optimization since it's a Google supported platform. So now you think, okay, well, I've started to figure out who is on each platform. And maybe you've looked at sort of the age demographic of your primary customers. Maybe you've started to think about their habits and where they are. You've started to scratch some of the channels that you decided, you know what, I'm servicing, you know, Gen X and baby boomers, so I don't need to be on TikTok. Or, you know, I'm a service-based business, so Pinterest is not something I care about. So you started to kind of hone in on the channel that way. So thinking about how best to use the channels is the next step, because what you post on Facebook shouldn't be what you post on LinkedIn. So here's why. We'll go right down through them like we did last time. You got Facebook, very broad reach, huge audience. It's the second most used platform behind YouTube. People use it to get updates. So what's going on, you know, the hot ticket items. And it's great for getting reviews. It's right up there with Google Business Profile. It's a great way to get people to, you know, give you stars, or now it's not stars, it's recommendations. Instagram, whoa, I don't know what just happened. Hang on, spoiler alert. Instagram, great for retail businesses. Obviously, it's all about the images. If you've been on Instagram versus Facebook, you see how captions on Instagram are sort of the second thought because you have to click on the image to see the caption. Whereas Facebook, you're scrolling through, you see words first. So oops, I'm sorry, I'm a hot mess here. That's what you're supposed to be seeing. So yeah, retail businesses and really about images. X is all about having conversations, great opportunity for interaction for sure, zero imagery, and it's good for issues, you know, communicating a little bit more in-depth conversation as opposed to just, oh, I really like that photo. It's more of actual sort of a little bit of depth in your conversations. TikTok is all about creativity, showing your brand's personality, good opportunity to show some behind the scenes things. And it's really about entertaining because if you remember from the previous slide, people are on TikTok for fun. LinkedIn, really about referral networks, growing your network, being credible. Service-based businesses are a big one that you see on LinkedIn. YouTube can be great if what you're doing, if you can teach a little bit, if what you're doing is something unique and you need to educate on it before people are going to be spending money, and also great for behind the scenes. Pinterest, also good for some of that teaching, those how-tos or infographics are really popular on Pinterest. People tend to use it for inspiration. And Pinterest could be really good, similar to Instagram in this way, in actually driving sales, like having a shop feature where people are going to click and shop right on the platform. But keep in mind, Pinterest is a very narrow audience. So if what you're selling is very niche and you can get your people who are buying your niche product are on it, Pinterest could be a perfect opportunity, but it's not going to be for everyone. And then Google Business Profile, besides being great for your search engine optimization, it's great for a quick glance, general summary. People who are impulse buying whatever you're selling, when they can real quick just go look, oh, they're ours, they're open now, or there's the phone number, I could call them. Google Business Profile is a great quick glance, and another platform like Facebook for getting reviews. That's an opportunity I see missed a lot too on both Facebook and Google Business Profile. A lot of people don't have any reviews, and it's not hard to get them, it's just you forget. So this is your daily reminder. If you are on a social media platform that allows you to get reviews, send out an email to your customer base or put something up in your shop or whatever, and ask for them. Politely ask for them and give them the link. It can be very easy. People love to give feedback, but it's just hard to remember to ask. And so finally, with each channel, let's talk about why people are on these platforms. So what we're going to talk about is the most amount of people are on these platforms with interest in these topics. Doesn't mean exclusively the only reason people are ever on these channels, but it's just rises to the top as the primary reason that the users are there. On Facebook, it's family and friends. I mean, isn't Facebook how we all use to keep in touch with our baby boomer aunt who lives in Nevada? You know, that's how people primarily, that is the top use of Facebook. Instagram is fashion and beauty. X goes along with what we said a minute ago about more in-depth conversations. People are on X to talk politics, news, current events. They're on TikTok for music and entertainment. LinkedIn, you guessed it, professional networking. YouTube, music and entertainment. Pinterest, the do-it-yourself inspiration, home decor. And then Google Business Profile is a big, the reason it's easier if you have a physical location to use is because it is more of a storefront type platform. And people use it every time you search something that ends in near me, you know, shopping near me, coffee near me. So that is the primary Google Business Profile topic of interest. So hopefully you've started to think about who your people are, you know, when you're interacting on social media, who your target audience is. And you might have multiple target markets. You might have a couple of different products. You might have retail and wholesale. You might have a couple of products that really appeal to two very distinct but different people. That's all totally okay. But being able to identify those target audiences, remember, step one. Then you're starting to look at the channels and seeing, you know, the age and the demographics of who is on each of these channels. And you're starting to think about how people are using these channels, you know, how often they're on it, or they're scrolling on their mobile device. If they're on it, are they shopping? Are they looking because they want to see what's going on with their aunt in Nevada? Are they just trying to be entertained? So you've started to kind of, you know, hopefully home in on some of those things and hopefully start to understand that why each channel for those different identifiable actions and characteristics is going to be a fit. I say started because we're just sort of tip of the iceberg here, social media marketing for beginners, just planting seeds. Happy to follow up one-on-one, or of course answer questions too. Pop them in the chat as they come. But now it's talking about, okay, well, what do I do? Like, I get it. I should be on, you know, this channel or these two channels. I'm getting that now. I know my customers are there, but what do I put on them? So some general rules of thumb as you're thinking about the content, thinking about the meat of what you're putting on those pages. Put yourself in the customer's shoes. So maybe you are, or maybe you're not target market. Everyone just pause for just 2 seconds and think, are you part of your own target market? And you don't have to say it or anything or put it in the chat, but it's a simple yes or no. Or maybe it's a yes, but I'm on the periphery of my target. You know, you comfortably afford what you're selling. Are you interested in it? Would you buy it regularly if it is something that you sell, you know, multiple times? So are you part of your own target market? If you are, that makes this put yourself in your shoes a little easier. If you're not, you know, you have to just kind of shift your brain a little bit, but helpful to identify when you're not part of your own target market. I find people a lot, if I work with a client that's selling a more luxury product or service, and they're just starting out in their business, so they don't have a lot of money. You know, they're like, oh, I'm taking a tiny salary and I'm selling this product to people who have high disposable household income. And then we start talking about their marketing and they start marketing as though they would want to hear their marketing. I say, well, you're not interested in buying what you're selling right now. You're not the target market. So you have to kind of force yourself to shift the mindset a little bit. And think about, you know, what question are you answering? What are you solving for these people? Classic Business 101, you know, what solution or what problem is your business solving? And thinking about social media, when somebody is Googling something, what would you like to be the answer to? And what, you know, when you're thinking about each sort of individual content effort that you're putting on these channels, why, why are you doing it? Are you doing it because you're trying to reach more people? You're trying to gain awareness. You want to be seen. Is that why? Or are you hoping that people are going to engage? You're posting something maybe with a question or some sort of giveaway where if they share it, they get entered into a drawing, so what is that the purpose? Or do you want people to act? Are you posting something with a button that says shop now or click here or go do this? And each post on a social media channel, each individual marketing effort, whether it's a post on a social media channel or even an interaction in person or handing someone a business card or putting up a flyer, really think which of those three buckets you're sort of primarily trying to, what are you primarily trying to accomplish? And one of those three will rise above the others. They're all, it's possible to do more than one, but figure out which one's the primary focus. And then you can often tailor the content to be more specific towards be more intentional. We've talked about it, but respond, interact. This might mean responding to comments. It might mean responding to reviews. It might mean posting things that encourage people to interact or encourage people to share or like. And it can also mean, I've seen this happen a lot on Instagram in particular. Remember that it's not all about you and your business, but you engaging with other pages. You click follow on Instagram. I think there's a statistic behind how likely the person is to follow you back. Instagram's set up that way so that when you find out someone's following you, it gives you the opportunity. Do you want to follow them back? So remember that it's not just you posting your stuff, but you can also engage as a business with other pages, or you can share other pages that are relevant or parallel to what you are doing. And it just makes it more interesting because, every business in itself is interesting, but then you start bringing in others and it just makes it more exciting for your audience. And my big hang up, variety. Don't just post your menu with your specials every day or the same boring pictures of muffins behind the glare of your bakery showcase. But easier said than done. So it can be helpful to plan your content ahead of time so that you don't have that mental load of every day of deciding. If I got up at 4 a.m. to open my bakery every morning and had to decide what's going to be the social media post of the day, and for some reason had arranged my schedule so that 4 a.m. on a weekday morning was when I was posting, which would be silly and violating one of my earlier recommendations. But if I did do that, would have been helpful to at least have a calendar that said, okay, well, today you're going to post something that is entertaining. Nope, today you're going to share a blog article that's interesting and educating. Or today you're going to just tell people to come in and buy your new soup, So I like to put things in buckets if you haven't already noticed that. And when it comes to variety of content, promote, educate, and entertain are sort of your three major buckets. Doesn't mean there aren't other things that fit in other ways, but if you're trying to get inspiration and be creative with your posts, it helps to start thinking about those three buckets separately. So we're going to go through them and come up with some ideas too. Promote. Let's say maybe you've decided that every Monday and Thursday, your post on Instagram is going to be something promotional. So what this could be, it could be a product highlight, a service highlight, something encouraging people to shop, a discount. It could be promoting your expertise, especially if you're a service-based business. Maybe it's a meet me or meet my staff. See how qualified we are. Come talk to us. Maybe you're a business where you're getting a lot of uncertainty, a lot of FAQs, answering some FAQs, doing a contest. So promote is really about showcasing yourself. When you think of marketing and advertising, it's sort of your default. And I do think sometimes people put too much content into this category. They do too much promotion and it gets boring or it gets salesy. And your customers don't want to feel like they're being sold to. They want to be sold to, but they don't want to know they're being sold to. So if you post promotional content every day, which is what I was essentially doing with my specials and telling people, as a product highlight every day, Well, it got really boring, but it's just very salesy. So you kind of have to step out of the promote box. Sometimes the way to do that is to educate. And depending on your industry, thinking about something that is relevant. Remember that target audience that you're so familiar with now? What do they want to know, as it relates to your business? So I owned a coffee shop. You might think, well, what were my customers interested in knowing? And frankly, not a whole lot. They wanted me to pour their coffee every day and shut up, But had I posted a few educate options, I could definitely come up with something. For example, some of my lunch options were a little bit more on the healthy side. I served acai bowls, for example, and I had always thought about it, and I don't think I ever actually made a post, but something about the health benefits of acai. And, here's a beautiful picture of a colorful bowl, and here's why it's good for you. And it could have been as simple as sharing somebody else's blog post, or maybe my vendor supplier of acai, I could have shared something that they posted. So none of your social media has to be something that you fully draft up and write. You can, I don't mean plagiarize, but I mean share and appropriately credit the source. But pulling it onto your page now gives you a little bit of okay, like I put this here, it's going to drive people to your page. Other content variety that educates, how-tos and infographics, current events, maybe, and I don't mean, not a huge fan of businesses talking politics, but different things that people are currently wanting to learn about that your business is maybe, engaging with, or maybe it's just something your audience, that a lot of them care about it. Tools, tips, resources. If you follow SBDC's content, we are an advisory network. We're educating. So it's really easy for us to fall into educate as our social media content. But we do try to throw in some fun entertainment, as well as some promotional, hey, go request advising. So the last category, entertain or inspire. This is the kind of fun one. I do see some businesses that do put too much on this, and they post, 3 or 4 times a week, and it's all memes. And it's like, okay, this looks less professional. This looks like a personal page and not a business page. So you do want to be careful to sprinkle in entertain. Maybe it's once a week, maybe it's Fun Fact Friday. Maybe it's some personal information about your staff, like on the weekends, so-and-so really likes engaging in this hobby, so fun stuff that you think, okay, well, nobody is going to come to my business because they found out that my service writer likes to go skiing on the weekends. Like, you think nobody's going to come for that. Well, no, you're right. They're not going to come into your business and say they came for that reason. But remember, social media is about patience and about building over time and continued interaction and people seeing you over and over again and feeling more and more connected to you, even though they're just staring at you on a flat screen. So entertainment can be a really fun way to build some of that connection when it's not overdone. So few random things that I get questions about a lot as it relates to social media. Hashtags is a big one. People say, do I need to use hashtags? Do they matter? They matter. When used effectively, they can help. I wouldn't say they're an absolute necessity. If you're not using them, don't panic and feel like you need to learn a whole new skill to do it. But fairly simple and straightforward to start implementing them. For reference, certain channels, more and less influence of hashtags. So like Instagram's a big one. If you've determined that Instagram's going to be a primary platform, that your audience fits in there, and that your, product or service is very visual, Instagram's becoming a massive platform. Hashtags on Instagram are recommended, and they recommend having 8 to 11. Facebook, less so, 3 to 5 max. And then on X, just a couple, not a lot. And there's different research done on quantities. So you can fact check this. These are rough ranges just to kind of give you something to compare. But check into it. You can decide sort of what makes the most sense. And hashtags really fall into three categories. If you are on a channel and you search a hashtag, like if you go on a Facebook and type in a hashtag into the search engine, it will come up and tell you a number of how many times that's been used, unless it's too few that it doesn't register. So there are big hashtags. So like Acadia National Park, I didn't put the number here and I don't remember how many times that hashtag has been used, but that's a big one. And then there's smaller ones that are more specific. Hashtag Maine Roller Derby has somewhere in the 2,500 to 5,000. I don't know why I put the less than sign there. That's a typo, but 2,500 to 500 uses of that hashtag exist on an individual platform. So it's good to use a variety. Use some hashtags that are big and used a lot, and then use some that are smaller, and also some that are branded. So the branded one, hashtag your business name, is probably going to have much, much, much fewer uses until you become a big name. So it doesn't capture as many people, but it also doesn't get lost in the, hashtag Acadia National Park. You're not going to be the first search result when people search for that. But people are searching for it more. So it's about balance, about using a mixture of all three of those different types of hashtags. Shifting gears from hashtag, another sort of miscellaneous thought. Set some goals. Think about, we talked about purpose a little bit, but as you're sort of developing your strategy and thinking about where you're going to be, set some goals. And an SBDC advisor can certainly help with this, but be real with them. If you're just starting on Facebook and you say, I'm going to have 10,000 followers by the end of my first year, I'm going to push back and say that's probably not realistic. But setting some milestones, 500 Facebook followers in 6 months. And then by the end of my first year, I'm going to have another 250 tacked onto that. And then you can look at those milestones. I think that helps with the patience a little bit, as long as you haven't set astronomical goals. But so think about some numbers, think about, followers, think about what your goal is as far as frequency, and also think about the purpose of social media. Are you hoping that social media is going to get people knocking on your door, buying your product, giving you dollars? Or are you hoping it's just going to get people talking, get the buzz going? Are you hoping that as you start talking to people around town, more and more people know who you are and know of your business? As a coffee shop owner, it was like the biggest dig when somebody would say, I've never heard of you, if they lived or worked in the town or nearby. Because of the coffee shop, my goal with social media wasn't necessarily to drive people through the door, but just to get a buzz going. The caffeine buzz, if you will, around town. I wanted people talking about it so that less people would say, I've never heard of you. So think about how you're using social media and what you're looking to get out of it. It's obviously everybody wants to make more money, but your social media marketing may not be the marketing channel that you're using to primarily drive sales. It may be more of the long game as far as just interaction and generating that buzz. Speaking of which, I'll remind you again to be patient, because social media, any digital marketing is a long game. And the proof is in the pudding when you think about your daily life. You get up in the morning, maybe the radio alarm clock wakes you up and you instantly start hearing commercials. And then you are scrolling a social media page while you're drinking your coffee and you're seeing more and more marketing, more and more commercials being thrown at you. And you get in your car and you drive by and there's, vehicles with lettering on the side, marketing. So you're constantly throughout your day being exposed to marketing, especially on the internet. It's so noisy. So for your little old business, no matter how big you think you've got compared to where you started, no matter how big you think you are in your little town in Maine or in Maine in general, you're still a small fish because it's a huge pond. And the internet has made it so noisy for people to get marketing out. So you have to be patient and playing the long game and prepared for that. That said, you want to make sure, you've set these goals. You want to make sure that you're getting somewhere, right? So you can track track your return on investment. You know, if you're spending an hour a month, track what you're getting out of that hour a month. You know, how many new followers are you getting? How much interaction? How many people are you interacting with, you know, paying customers that mention something they saw on social media, you know? Or, you know, is your customer base changing to a better customer base? You're getting people that are a better fit for what you're doing. You know, you're turning away less work because more customers are calling you and able to pay in your price range. So like really tracking what your social media is doing for you can help with that patience and that long game, and help you know if you're having any sort of an impact or if you should start thinking about other channels or other content. But remember, just don't quit too quickly. I think that's a big thing with social media. Don't quit too quickly. And a lot of social media channels have really good insights and analytics. And I think people don't take advantage of them enough to actually look into the insights and see who's visiting their page, what are people doing, how many times a month did you post this month compared to last month? So really just tracking that stuff as opposed to just taking sort of your day-to-day and thinking you know what's going on. You know, make notes, keep a spreadsheet, keep a whiteboard, come up with one number that every month you're going to look at and watch that number climb, and celebrate the small things. If it just climbs a little, celebrate it, because it is a long game and patience is hard. And one more random thing comes up a lot. I know that artificial intelligence is a hot topic now. You've probably heard of ChatGPT. If not, just know that it is a form of artificial intelligence that does, I'm going to butcher this description, but it writes for you. It writes like a human. You tell it what you want it to do. It generates the content based on what it knows from the internet, and it writes for you. It's very articulate. How do people use ChatGPT? Sometimes it helps guide their blog writing. It can help create tables when they're trying to just organize something and they can't quite put their finger on how to do it. I used ChatGPT the other day to respond to a text from my mother that made me mad, and I wanted to respond and be kind but assertive. And I told ChatGPT, I said, tell me, you know, how to respond to this. And I gave it some detail. I prompted it to tell what I needed. And it responded. And then I said, yeah, but make the tone a little bit more colloquial. And it did. And then I said, okay, good, but take out, I don't like your use of this word. And it changed it again. And in the end, I had a text that I used and I sent to my mom, and it was perfect. So ChatGPT, there is a free version. If you have a hard time developing content for social media, in particular written content, although there's plenty of AIs out there that also can help with visual content. I have not played around with those yet. But it can help if you're sort of brain cramped, if you're not into writing, if you need inspiration. Huge asterisks here with ChatGPT, though. Be very careful. Do not use it for data. Verify anything you get on there. If they're giving you facts and data, verify the source of that, because ChatGPT is not known for having reliable sources. And huge asterisks, be careful with plagiarizing. Don't just copy and paste what it does. Depending on the situation, you know, if you tell it to write a blog for you, you got to make sure that it didn't just literally take that blog from someone else. So you have to be very careful. So I like to use it kind of in bits and pieces, helping me reword a sentence to sound a certain tone that I'm not good. You know, it helped me reword that text to sound nice to my mom. So just kind of a fun little tool to explore if you have a hard time with writing. So I will just wrap and say, this was a high-level overview meant for a beginner audience, but we're happy to go into as much more depth as us generalist business advisors can do, and help you develop your own strategy. And sort of, I think most of what we do is help people sort of noodle on, you starting to know the basics, but you're just not quite sure how to pull the trigger. So please reach out to us. The best way to do it is that link at the bottom, request advising on our website. And also, if you are interested in more in-depth content about some of the specific platforms, check out our YouTube channel. A lot of good recordings of webinars that we've done in the past on Instagram and Pinterest and TikTok and whatnot. Don't quote me. I'm not sure all 3 of those have their own webinar, but just for example. And if there's a webinar we haven't done, let us know. We do these all the time. We're required to. So let us know if you'd like us to dig into a topic. And I always recommend one on our YouTube, subscribe. So that way, well, everybody wants more subscribers on YouTube. That's just great. Here, look, I'm promoting our own social media here. But also how I use our social media channel all the time is the search tool. So we have some playlists, which is great. But I know if there's a topic, if I want to know about Facebook, I'm going to type Facebook right into the search tool, and it's going to come up with whatever webinars we've done that are related, use Facebook in the name or the caption. So check it out if you're looking for some more in-depth or to see what we've got, or if you request advising. And we're a little bit busy right now, so we might not be able to meet one-on-one with you for 2 or 3 weeks, but YouTube can sometimes keep you busy and give some fodder for that advising session when you can get in front of one of us.